Now at 6 and streaming on crossroadstoday.com, the Victoria City Council will be getting a report on Tejas Fest this week and deciding the future of the festival. Plus, we'll hear from Victoria County health officials about the current measles outbreak and local numbers. And a woman is taken to the hospital after being hit by a vehicle outside a Victoria business.
We're going to be dealing with some very strong winds over the next couple of days. Everything's blowing up into this big area of low pressure. We're going to be looking at winds probably in the 30 to 45 mile an hour range. So not only that, but we're under high fire danger. We'll be talking more about that coming up after this.
And Refugio Track and Field is ready to make some noise heading into this year. We'll highlight both the girls and boys teams coming up in sports.
You're watching 25 News now at 6. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Shauna Curry. Don Brubaker is off tonight. Victoria's City Council is taking a closer look at Tejas Fest after its first year in place of Boost. Tomorrow night, they will review a report on the 2024 event at the council meeting and talk about possible changes for next year or for this year's event. Council will also consider a budget amendment to cover a deficit of over $142,000, more than Boot Fest's last 2 years combined. That festival had faced criticism for being in the red each year. So this brings us to our viewer poll for today. Was Tejas Fest worth the cost? Yes, it was a great event. No, too much taxpayer money was spent on the event. Maybe, but changes are needed, or I didn't attend Tejas Fest. We want to hear from you. Go to crossroadstoday.com/vote to give us your opinion or to weigh in on this. And right now, 73% of voters say they didn't attend Tejas Fest. Following behind that, kind of split between it was a great event and too much taxpayer money spent. So continue voting. We'll have the latest on 25 News now at 10. West Texas is seeing a record number of measles cases this year, stemming from an outbreak in Gaines County. 25 News Now reporter Trenton Whiting joins us with an update on Victoria County's response to the spreading disease. Trenton.
Shauna, the 2025 measles outbreak has many Texas healthcare professionals concerned, but Victoria County seems to have a handle on the illness. Victoria County Health Department Director David Gonzalez says there are no suspected or confirmed measles cases in the county. Gonzalez says the county has a 98 to 99% vaccination rate in school-age children. Gonzalez reminds everyone that measles is a contagious virus and recommends vaccinations for every child.
The number one way to prevent this virus, with the first dose, you have about a 93% effectiveness with the first one, and then with the second vaccine, you have a 97% prevention rate with that.
Gonzalez says there are 146 known measles cases in Texas, with all of them being confined to far west Texas. Gonzalez says the reason for the outbreak is due to the low vaccination rates there. Shauna?
All right, thank you, Trenton. Well, hold on to your hats this week. The wind is going to be blowing. Let's go to Mac Perez for a first look at our forecast. And Mac, from what it sounds like you've been saying, it's going to feel almost like a tropical storm, just without all of the rain and the wet stuff that comes along with it.
It's going to be a high level windstorm that we're going to deal with. And it's instead of having the high humidities and the rain, we're going to be extremely dry, and therefore we're going to be under fire danger. We've got the alert up for Tuesday, especially all counties in the Crossroads. 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts expected, very dry air. And that means that anything that looks like a flame could get a fire started, and it's going to be very hard to stop under these kind of conditions. We'll be talking more about that and take a look at your 7-day coming up in just a few minutes. Back to you, Shauna.
5 passengers were taken to the hospital after their flight hit severe turbulence and was diverted to Waco. Airport officials say multiple flights had to land unexpectedly at Waco Regional Sunday night because of turbulence. A United Airlines flight from Springfield, Missouri to Houston with 35 people on board was among them. 5 passengers were hurt and taken to a local hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The rest of the passengers waited for another plane to continue their journey to Houston. 2 American Airlines flights were also diverted due to weather. The FAA is investigating after commercial flights approaching Reagan National Airport repeatedly received mid-air collision alerts, even though no other aircraft were nearby. Several flight crews reported the mystery alerts on Saturday. Some pilots decided to abort their landings, performing a go-around after receiving the alerts. Audio from air traffic control shows the alerts happened just miles away from the site of a deadly mid-air collision last month, where an American Airlines flight and a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter collided, killing 67 people. Fire crews are still working to gain control of the Carolina Forest wildfire in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Small fires are smoldering, creating thick smoke throughout the area. Horry County Fire Rescue is teaming up with regional and state crews, while forestry teams are using plows and cutting fire breaks to help contain the blaze. Governor Henry McMaster says he's staying updated on the situation.
The report that I've received so far, there have been no buildings lost and no lives lost. But this is a great example, another demonstration, another performance by Team South Carolina.
The South Carolina Forestry Commission says the fire is 30% contained. A major traffic shift is coming to US 59 and US 77 as part of the ongoing highway widening project. Tomorrow, northbound traffic shifts into new lanes near FM 446, and then on Wednesday, southbound traffic follows near Old Goliad Road. Both directions will be divided through the work zone with no left turns allowed, but turnarounds are open at key intersections. This $55.9 million project is expanding the highway to 4 lanes and is expected to wrap up in December. Expect delays, follow speed limits, and stay alert in the work zone. A woman is hurt in an auto pedestrian accident this morning around 11 o'clock. The woman was hit by a vehicle outside the front doors of Walmart on the Houston Highway. According to Victoria Police, she walked out of the store going toward the parking lot when she was hit. The driver of the truck claims that he didn't see her. The woman was taken to the hospital to be treated for a broken leg. The accident is still under investigation. Texas House and Senate lawmakers have laid out their property tax cut proposals. To see how they compare, you can read the full Texas Tribune article on our website, crossroadstoday.com. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. Stay with us. Coming up on 25 News Now at 6, European defense stocks jump after a tense Trump-Zelensky meeting, what it means for U.S. security and markets. And new tariffs on America's biggest trade partners are set to take effect tomorrow, what it will mean for your wallet. There's a hiring freeze now in effect at the Department of Defense. U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth issued the memo on Friday, halting the hiring of civilians and the creation of new civilian positions. This follows President Trump's January order for a federal civilian hiring freeze. Hegseth says he will consider exemptions for areas like immigration enforcement, national security, and public safety. The Pentagon aims to reduce its civilian workforce by 8 to 10%, mostly affecting probationary employees who have been on the job for a year or less. The heated meeting between President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky continues to reverberate from Washington to Kyiv. Julia Benbrook has the latest from the White House.
On Friday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was here at the White House to discuss the war in Ukraine. But the meeting was cut short after an Oval Office sit-down turned heated.
You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards.
Trump administration officials have continued criticizing Zelensky days after the blow-up in the Oval Office.
What we don't have right now is President Zelensky saying, I am ready to take the steps necessary and have the conversations necessary and make the compromises necessary to end the fighting.
And in a Truth Social post Monday, Trump reacted to an AP headline that quoted Zelensky, saying an end to the war, quote, is still very, very far away. Trump wrote, "This is the worst statement that could have been made by Zelensky, and America will not put up with it for much longer." European leaders held an emergency summit in London on Sunday to rally support for Ukraine. And British Prime Minister Keir Starmer told reporters that he is working with France and a small number of other nations to craft a plan to stop the fighting, which would then be presented to the United States. Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron both visited the White House last week and stressed the importance of security guarantees from the United States to ensure Russia keeps its promises if there is a peace agreement. All of this is happening just after the third anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. At the White House, I'm Julia Benbrook.
Stocks of European defense companies surged today as investors are betting on an increase in military spending. The Stocks Europe Aerospace and Defense Index jumped nearly 8%, its biggest one-day gain in 5 years. European leaders are worried about the shifting U.S. stance on security, especially after a tense meeting between Presidents Trump and Zelensky. Meanwhile, shares of major defense companies like Rheinmetall, BAE Systems, and Leonardo saw big jumps in their stocks. EU leaders are now meeting to discuss ramping up defense spending, with targets reaching as high as 3% of GDP. Many mainstream economists say the cost of cars and groceries could go up soon. That's due to new tariffs that President Donald Trump could impose tonight. He says they're partly a negotiation tactic to stem the flow of fentanyl into the U.S. and increase border security. But investors seem worried about inflation. Amy Kiley reports on how the Trump administration is trying to ease those concerns.
There are going to be tariffs on Tuesday on Mexico and Canada.
The Commerce Secretary confirms new tariffs are on track to begin around midnight Eastern Time tonight. He says a 10% hike on Chinese imports is on the table, on top of last month's increase. Executive orders also call for tariffs on most Canadian and all Mexican goods worth more than $800. The Secretary says the percentage of those duties is unclear. He says the president believes America's neighbors are making progress on border security.
He's sort of thinking about right now how exactly he wants to play it with Mexico and Canada, and that is a fluid situation.
U.S. companies are the ones that have to pay the tariffs. The Trump administration downplays how much of that cost they'd pass on to consumers. Many economists say the proposed tariffs could increase prices for goods like shoes, electronics, groceries, and especially vehicles.
If you can buy one before Tuesday, before the tariffs come in and we either shut down or become more expensive, you should go and do it.
Another concern is that Mexico, China, and Canada could impose retaliatory measures.
We will have a strong, unequivocal, and proportional response as Canadians expect.
But some analysts say the new tariffs could be good for the U.S. in the end. The Trump administration says they're leverage.
And the key would be no tariffs. But to get there, there's a negotiation. He's starting that negotiation.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. We're looking at 74 degrees right about now. You might have felt the little Gulf air rolling in. It's getting rather breezy. Winds right now at 21 miles an hour. We've had a peak wind gust at about 32 miles an hour. Tomorrow, we're looking for howling winds, very dry air, and a red flag advisory is up. Our high today at 80, 63 was our overnight low. These are all above normal, obviously, the temperatures. But tomorrow, with very dry humidities, we've got a big fire problem. We'll be talking more about it coming up after this. Well, you probably had a good weekend. I'm sure you did. It was very nice. But then all of a sudden the clouds rolled in and we even picked up a few little sprinkles here and there. It's all that strong wind coming in and pumping all that Gulf moisture back into the area. In addition to the surface, you've got these high level clouds drifting overhead. What's going on? Well, up in Colorado, we've got a huge storm coming out. It's coming out of the Rockies and it's going to be a major weather factor for everybody. Here are the winds for tonight. You can see they'll be in the 20-25 mile an hour range. And tomorrow they only increase as the humidity will decrease, okay? The winds will be blowing through here. I figured about 9 o'clock it'll shift around to a northwest wind. All of this that you see right here, we are under a red flag warning because of a high fire danger. Now, you've got springtime. Not everything is greened up yet. Number 2, we've got high winds of 30-40 miles an hour. Number 3, you've got extremely dry humidities rolling in behind all this activity. And as a result, we've got a high fire danger. And so be very careful with anything that looks like flame. Even the hot exhaust off of your pickup truck, consider that in high, tall grass that's very dry. Kind of a problem. So we are under that, not only the wind advisory, but the red flag warning as well. Now, this is the drop map that comes out every week, and you can see how Victoria County seems to be doing okay in the moderate to dry conditions. However, out here west, San Antonio, all the way to Uvalde, they are in an extreme drought. You can see right about here, right there, there's a red level. As a result, nothing has fallen in this area. And of course, this is where our rivers come from the hill country. The Guadalupe starts way up there in Comfort, Texas, and then it rolls all the way down here. And so it's a concern because while we may not be as dry as them, our water comes down that channel, and if it doesn't rain over there, well, we've got a problem here. So let's just say we all need to start praying for a little bit of rain to roll in. Right about now, the frontal system's out west of us. It's going to pass through about 9 o'clock in the morning. You'll really feel that north wind kicking in, and it's going to be very dry and very arid. It's going to feel like you're in Phoenix, Arizona, with very low humidities. This is that powerful storm I was telling you about. Remember, everything's flowing into this area of low pressure, and then it's rising up into the upper atmosphere. Behind it, very strong winds, and ahead of it, very strong winds as well. So quite a bit of a storm that will track through the Central Plains. Overnight lows tonight for us, not particularly cold. 69 will be the low temperature, and then tomorrow we'll get up to about 85. We're probably the warmest in the state, while western Texas will be behind that north wind, which will actually cool it down. But you may have seen the video. Places like El Paso, Albuquerque, southern New Mexico, they're all in dust storms right about now, and that's part of our storm. Here you see the windup of the storm right there with rain ahead of it and snow in the higher elevations, and then it rolls out in the plains. So here we are on Tuesday morning with a chance, an extreme chance of getting some sort of rain through here. Thing is, it doesn't last very long, then it blows out. And by the following day, Wednesday, we're just bone dry again. So a sprinkle or two early in the morning, then very sunny and very windy for the afternoon. Same thing in Cuero, getting up to about 81 degrees. Forecast then after the chance today, our chance for any rain is pretty slim all the way through the next 7 days as we stay into the upper 70s. That's your 7-day forecast. Reminding everybody, we do have a QR code. Love for you to scan that. Put Crossroads Today on your phone. Shauna, back to you.
All right, thank you, Mac. Well, now we send it over to Max Williams for sports. Max.
All right, thanks, Sean. And this past weekend, we had some breaking news for Victoria East football fans. I'll tell you what the news is coming up in sports. All right, good evening here, Crossers. Last week we finished off a great season of basketball coverage with the Cuero Lady Gobblers making it all the way to the state championship. Well, now we're moving from winter sports into spring sports with the Refugio track and field squad. And last year, Refugio track and field got some big-time names getting to the state championship with Ernest the Flash Campbell winning the 100-meter dash. Well, he now attends Texas A&M University. And another star athlete was Jason Moore. He placed, again, in the 400-meter there, 4th place. So a couple of big names in the men's team. And the women's track squad, senior Jasmine Howard placed 3rd and got a state medal as well there. 2 other players to keep an eye on for Refugio women's team as well as Carly McLean and Riley Hogg. They placed well in the top 5 for Refugio track and field. But this year, Refugio has a new track surface they're going to bring out to the fans and also has some new athletes ready to run fast to the finish line.
I look forward to just working together and being better than we were last year and going and being strong all together, because without everyone, then we can't win another championship.
This track season, I want to focus on improving my speed. I would also like to improve our baton handoffs and make sure that we all stay focused during the race.
Refugio's Lewis and Howard are ready to make another run to state, and later tonight we're going to hear from more of the athletes there for Refugio track and field and maybe some of the coaches there on 25 News Now Sports at 10 p.m. Now over to some golf action. Rio HV men's and women's golf teams competed in the Shriner University Shootout, and this was day 1 of the event. Here are the current scores at the moment. The men's golf team is in 7th place right now, day 1, while the women's team is in 6th place after round 1. Again, for the men's, they played 3 rounds in total here in 2 days, and then for the women's teams, they played 2 rounds here over 2 days. One of the top scorers was Emily Beckelman. She got 6th individual right now in total with all the teams. She's at 77 overall. So both teams, again, will finish up tomorrow afternoon. Now over to some golf, to some football news. Victoria East High School hired a new defensive coordinator in Alan Salinas this past weekend. Salinas was originally a part of the Calhoun coaching staff with former head coach Richard Whittaker for the past 16 years. He was the defensive coordinator, again, recently at Calhoun for the past 4 years there for Calhoun. So Salinas is, again, he just mentioned he's excited to join this program and be back home in Victoria, where he's lived there for the past 8 years, and trying to hope to change the culture around on the defensive side for Victoria East. Now over to east to west, where the West Warriors team had 6 qualifiers for the boys state powerlifting team. They're going to go to 2 state meet March 22nd in Abilene, Texas. First with the lifter you see there on your screen, and Brody Flores. He's going to get competing in the 114-pound weight class, and Elijah Bland in the 132-pound weight class, Noah Nebrandt in the 198-pound weight class, Caden Leal in the 220-pound weight class, Braden Garland 220-pound as well, and then Brady Merritt in the 308-pound weight class, and then Jaden Freer going to be in the strong heavyweight weight class. So all those guys, congrats again. They're going to state again for West. They also finished 1st place in the regional champs, and again, props to the head coach as well. There's Zach Moeller. He was named the Region 5 Coach of the Year. Now over to some national news, where former Dallas Cowboys and University of Miami, Florida head coach Jimmy Johnson announced he will retire working for Fox Sports after being in the network for 31 years, according to ESPN's NFL reporter Adam Schefter. Johnson used to work for the Dallas Cowboys there from 1989 to 1993, and again, Jimmy Johnson, just an icon that everybody knows from his coaching, from what he did on Fox, and everything in that regard. That's going to do it here in sports. Shauna, back to you.
All right, thank you, Max. Well, stay with us. Coming up, one dad's quest to rename his little girl just took a big step forward. Wait until you hear what name this little girl almost had for the rest of her life. A Nebraska father is making progress in his legal battle to change his 2-year-old daughter's name. Jason Kilburn says his toddler now has a social security number, finally, after months of fighting to change her name from Unakite 13 Hotel to Caroline Elizabeth Kilburn. Definitely much more traditional. The child was born in Iowa, spent over a year in foster care. Her mother, who struggled with drug use during pregnancy, neglected her. And Kilburn says the unusual name was actually computer generated, so it wasn't even that somebody picked it out. Now he and his attorney are working on a motion to have Iowa update the child's birth certificate as well. Can you imagine explaining that to people your entire life growing up? So luckily the dad is having some
Well,
success.
if she kept that name, she could be a famous musician, like
She can have one with the new
like
name
Prince
too.
had a squiggly there for a while.
I mean, I don't know. Elizabeth just sounds like you were saying.
It does sound like a little girl, though.
More.
Yeah.
Anyway, folks, we got to get ready for a very windy couple of days. In fact, tonight it'll be about 30 miles an hour. Tomorrow it'll maybe be up to 40 miles an hour. We have an alert up for a red flag warning. That's a high fire danger, so just be very cautious outside because we've got heat, wind, and very dry air rolling into the area.
All right. Be mindful when you're outside doing any kind of work or even just driving down the highway.
Avoid flames.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here tonight for 25 News Now at 10. Until then, have a great evening.